Hello, and this is Dr. Shah, and this is the first of many videos on the secrets of how Clear.Dental really works on the back end. The purpose of these videos are for doctors to understand how their own data is being stored and have a better understanding of why certain data looks the way it is, and then have better control over their own patients' data. As I want to promote more open source and open data to doctors to be able to see what the data is, I think it's important for doctors to have some level of background on how the file formats actually work. So this first video will quickly go over .ini files. They're a fairly simple format that doesn't take too long. Then we'll go over .json files, and then we'll go over Git. Now, yes, Git is normally used by software developers, but I think it's something that is simple enough that a doctor can understand how it works. And then at the very end, we'll go over the file structure and then be able to say, okay, where are the allergies stored? Where are the medications stored? Just in case Clear.Dental were to ever crash, you know how to access the data. If there's any kind of bug, you know where the data is and how to make the changes and push those changes to the rest of the system. So let's go on with INI files. So there are three basic parts about an INI file. The first part is the category. The category starts with these brackets. So that begins a bracket, and then this is the category name. So in this example, address, and then that ends the bracket. This is just using a regular text editor called Kate, but you can use any text editor to view or edit these INI files. So if you see all this coloring, it's just Kate understanding what an INI file is and then helping you be able to edit them directly. Now, this is the first category, which is address. The second category is emails. Next one is name, personal, phones, preferences, and work. So everything you see below here is related to address. So this is the patient's address. So city, state, street, ADR1. And then zip code. Now, you probably have noticed that all of these have the same format of something equals something. So on the left side, it is what's called a key. A key is just basically the label for the actual data itself. So this is saying that for this fake patient, Efron Melendez, for his address, the address city is Marin, the country is USA, the state is Massachusetts, and the street address is 125 Main Street. Now, if we wanted to actually edit this, we could just do something like this. So now it's 625 space Main Street, a normal looking address rather than this randomly generated one. Something to note is that most of these keys that are in this INI file are simple one words. There's no space between, let's say, street and address. That is just by convention. There are ways to add a space, but for very long and technical reasons, we try to avoid putting a space in the actual label. So all of these look the exact same way in terms of key and then value. So the zip code is 33532. So then if you look at something like name, this is just the patient's name. So first name, notice once again, there is no space between first and name. Another convention you may have noticed is that you capitalize the first word and then the second word. So the F and the N are capitalized. That way it's really clear to see that it's referring to first name. This is actually perfectly legal, but it's not as legible by having it all lowercase. So that's why in Clear.Dental, you'll normally see in a format of capitalization, word, capitalization, word, and then equals whatever. So if I wanted to add a preferred name, I could say, Effie, something like that. So talking about personal, almost all the date formats that you will see is in American Standard. So if you're outside of the US, do note that almost everything in Clear.Dental is in the format of month, day, and then year in that specific order. That is because Clear.Dental was made by an American who does everything in that order and makes it easier to debug and view everything. And that is mostly it for .ini files. So once again, just to go over one more time, just to add something to a key, you can just type in, some email at example.com. You can even add new keys saying hello equals world. Now, one more thing that you might see depending on the software that's being used are quotations for certain situations. So here's a good example, ethnicity. So here you see a bunch of spaces, which is a perfectly legal way to have a value for this key. But sometimes some software likes to put quotes like this. These are equivalent values. You do not have to worry about if there's quotation marks or not. That's just simply the way that INI files are, so you don't really need to worry about it. And that is basically it. So the next part is going to go over .json files.